I will be going over the parts of violent self-destructive restraints documentation, which include initiation, monitoring, renewal, and discontinuation, as well as any paper forms. I will also point out the challenging areas that you may come across during the restraint documentation. The first part we will be discussing is initiation or application of the restraint. We will be looking at entering the correct order, initiating the care plan, as well as documenting in iView. Step 1. Placing the order. Always use the restraint seclusion subphase order set, which is used for both nonviolent and violent types of restraints. This restraint order will follow that restraint until it is discontinued. If we place a new restraint, we need a new restraint order. Step 2. Selecting the type of restraint. Once you order the restraint subphase, you will need to select the restraint type, nonviolent or violent. This is one of those problematic areas which is often missed. A good hint to know if the type of restraint was not selected is if you are able to sign this order without filling out the details of the restraint. For instance, where the restraint is placed. If you need to bring back that field, click on the light bulb icon above the order set to see the unchecked orders. Step 3. Complete your required details and sign. To multi-select, hold down your Control key. Step 4. Order your restraint care plan. The care plan will also follow the restraint. Once the restraint is removed, the care plan will need to be completed and discontinued. Any new restraint will need a new care plan. Step 5. Select or unselect any goals and interventions and sign. Step 6. Open documentation via your task. It is always best to document using task activities, as it will open all the required fields. Select your Restraint Apply task and click Document. Step 7. The first step is to activate your dynamic group icon. This is another one of those problematic areas that can be missed. Again, if you notice that you never documented anything about the restraint, check to see if your dynamic group was activated. Once you finish your restraint documentation, complete your communication position and restraint education documentation. Another problematic area is selecting the correct task with its corresponding action. For example, if you select the monitor task but select the action of apply, the restraint documentation fields will not open. You need to make sure that if you want to do an apply action, you select the apply task. Step 8. We do need a physician face-to-face documented within 1 hour of initiation. This can be done on either a paper form or in a progress note. Also, a debrief needs to be done, which is currently on a paper form. Monitoring restraints. We are required to do the paper Q15-minute monitoring form. However, the RNs should still document restraint monitoring Q2 hours in the computer. Restraint education is documented as needed. Step 1. Opening your documentation. Again, it is always best to use your task list, so go to your Restraint Monitor task and click on Document. The Monitor task will be found under the PRN and Continuous tab. Step 2. Complete all required fields and address all fields with a diamond. The task time will be reflected in your iView documentation time. As long as you did your assessment in that hour, you do not need to adjust the time. For example, if the task time is for 1700, as long as you did your restraint assessment between 1700 and 1759, you can document in the 1700 column. Restraints worksheet. Ensure that all sections of the sheet are completed. The most common areas that are missed are family notification, one-to-one observation maintained while patient in restraints, as well as the date time on the signature field. The initial start time you document on the flow sheet should match the time in the time applied field. You could do the next documentation before 15 minutes if you want to round out your assessment times. For example, your initial assessment was at 8:58. You could do another at 0900 to round out the times. Renewing restraints. Restraints need to be renewed every 4 hours. and you will be able to renew up to 24 hours. After that, a new order is needed. Finally, we will discuss the discontinuation of the restraints. This includes the order, IV documentation, and the care plan. Step 1. Place the order, restraint discontinue, violent, self-destructive. Remember to document the time the restraint was discontinued in the date time field. Remember, a patient can only have one restraint at a time. You need to discontinue the first before placing a second. For example, they cannot be in seclusion and be in a restraint chair at the same time. Step 2. Once you add in your order, open your restraint discontinue task. Step 3. Document your discontinuation documentation. Restraint education is also required upon discontinuation of the restraint. Step 4. Inactivate the restraint group. To keep iView clean, make sure you inactivate your restraint dynamic group. This will help prevent confusion in the event that another restraint needs to be ordered. Step 5. Complete and discontinue your restraint care plan. There are some special considerations when documenting seclusion. Your seclusion initiation time will be the same as your restraint initiation time. Upon discontinuation of the seclusion, make sure that seclusion initiation field was completed. Otherwise, the system cannot do the seclusion calculations. To review, always use the restraint seclusion subphase order set and discontinue restraint orders. Use your task activities to open up the restraint documentation rather than going straight to iView. Remember that each restraint instance should have its own order, dynamic group in iView, and care plan. Once that restraint is removed, we need to put in the discontinue order, inactivate the dynamic group, and discontinue that care plan. Now let's take a look at the differences when ordering a non-violent restraint. What does not change, the order is still the same, restraint seclusion subphase. We still document through the apply, monitor, and discontinue tasks. The basic restraints documentation process is still the same. Some minor changes is we will now select the non-violent, non-self-destructive options for all the orders and care plans rather than the violent ones. The monitor task can now be found under the scheduled task time tab rather than the continuous tab. The major changes, we do not need a physician face-to-face. Q2 monitoring is needed in the computer, and the restraint order needs to be renewed every 3 days.